The idea of having Namaskar Pacific Alliance Pacific Business Forum today was to have an interaction or deliberations among all stakeholders uh, to enhance or promote business ties between India and the Pacific Alliance countries. In addition to this conference, we also have an expo where Indian exhibitors are there, and we will also be connecting, having the buyer-seller meeting during the virtual expo. Today, we are privileged to have with us some of the most distinguished speakers. Her Excellency Ms. Mariana Pacheco, Ambassador Designate of Colombia to India, and representing the Pacific Alliance bloc. Mr. Suresh Kumar, he will be joining soon. He is Joint Secretary. I believe he's already here now. Joint Secretary LAC, Ministry of Commerce and Industry. Mr. Sanjeev Ranjan, our Indian Ambassador of India to Colombia. Mr. Subaraidu, Ambassador of India to Peru. Mr. Arvind Varchasvi, who leads FICCI's initiative in LAC region, and as the chair of FICCI LAC Regional Council, and Managing Director of Sri Sri Tatva, which is one of the largest FMCG company in India, and Mr. Manish Singhal, Deputy Secretary General FICCI, who leads FICCI's outreach, international outreach. So without taking too much time, I would like to invite Mr. Arvind Varchasvi, Managing Director, Sri Sri Tatva, and Chair, FICCI LAC Regional Council, for his welcome remarks.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kajendra. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you, ladies and gentlemen. A very good evening. Mr. Suresh Kumar, Joint Secretary, LAC, Ministry of Commerce, Government of India. Her Excellency, Ms. Mariana Pacheco, Ambassador Designate of Colombia to India. His Excellency, Mr. Federico Salas Lofte, Ambassador of Mexico to India. His Excellency, Mr. Carlos Rafael Polo, Ambassador of Peru to India. His Excellency, Mr. Juan Angulo, Ambassador of Chile to India. His Excellency, Mr. Sanjeev Ranjan, Indian Ambassador to Colombia. His Excellency, Mr. M. Subaraidu, Mr. Indian Ambassador to Peru. Friends from the industry, ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening. On behalf of the Indian Industry and Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry, FICCI, India's Apex Industry Association, it is my privilege and honor to welcome you all and all the participation and all the participants at the inaugural session of the Namaskar Pacific Alliance. To start off with, a very warm welcome to Mr. Suresh Kumar, our Joint Secretary, LAC, Ministry of Commerce, Government of India. It's an honor for us that all excellencies from Chile, Colombia, Mexico, and Peru are here with us here today to support this initiative, along with the other officials from the respective embassies. After the successful execution of the Namaskar initiatives in Africa, Eurasia, and also the business potential of the LAC region, FICCI has launched its first edition of Namaskar Pacific Alliance in the LAC region. The initiative would focus on facilitating active engagement between business communities of India and the Pacific Alliance region. The first edition of the Namaskar Pacific Alliance is in line with the focus of the LAC initiative of the Government of India proactively to promote business connect, trade, and investment relations, especially with an eye for the future between India and the Pacific Alliance grouping. Why the Pacific Alliance? The Pacific Alliance is a Latin American trade bloc formed by Chile, Colombia, Mexico, and Peru, which all border the Pacific Ocean. Collectively, these four countries represent the 8th largest economy in the world. They represent over 37% of the region's GDP and account to more than 52% of its trade. The alliance also attracts around 45% of Latin America's foreign direct investment, FDI, here. The vision of the bloc advocates for establishment of clear fiscal, tax, and financial regulation framework to create a facilitative space for investment, infrastructure development, natural disaster response capability, SME growing, and setting of clear and consistent standards to demonstrate and improve business confidence. The Pacific Alliance shows great signs of continued development and increasingly progressive legislative changes. Government agendas are being prepared, offering a more facilitated business environment for foreign entrepreneurs and investors. It targets deeper integration in international trade and people-to-people connection and movements, study exchanges, participation in social and commercial exhibitions, tourism, research are all areas of cooperation between member states. In order to develop theirs and other economies and drive fair competition, the Pacific Alliance is also geared up towards building connections between people and businesses in Asia. Business operating in a member country will be more expansive reach into around surrounding markets and also bring future in terms of potential upcoming international connectivity. As an integrated economic force, the bloc therefore offers the perfect platform for launching its legs in the rest of Latin America. There are large numbers of Indian companies operating in the Pacific Alliance region, and there's potential for more. We believe that the time is right for governments across the region to take proactive, pragmatic steps to unlock the potential of India and the Pacific Alliance relationship. There is a need to push towards strengthening bilateral trade agreements between India and the Pacific Alliance countries and create a platform for business entrepreneurs to engage in dialogue towards enhancing trade and investment. I hope today's interaction will enable us to explore some of these possibilities and collaborations with the region. We all know this year Colombia received the pro tempore presidency of the Pacific Alliance. Hence, Her Excellency Ms. Mariana Peru, Ambassador Designate of Colombia to India, would be representing here the Pacific Alliance trade bloc and presenting her remarks on behalf of the Excellencies from Chile, Mexico, and Peru. We are keen to hear and learn from Her Excellency, Ambassador Designate of Colombia to India, how we can support India's endeavor to explore the business opportunities in the Pacific Alliance region, which could lead to a mutually beneficial partnership between India and the Pacific Alliance nations. With these words, I welcome you all again, and I'm confident that we would have very fruitful deliberations this evening and a successful exhibition for the next 2 days. I also encourage that the entire trade bloc really consider the aspect that what India has championed across to the world, that being Ayurveda, which is gaining across global recognition. And we welcome to see that how countries could also partner with this, great science that what India has to offer, whether it's in terms of research and also the recognition of this particular science. From Shri Tattva's side, we've been championing it, and we're very happy to see that how India could be taken across to the world, especially in terms of Ayurveda. Thank you very much, Your Excellencies and ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Varchasviji, for highlighting the business opportunity and business potential between India and the Pacific Alliance bloc, and also highlighting the benefits of Ayurveda, which we can offer to our friends in Pacific Alliance nations. May I now invite Mr. Suresh Kumar. Mr. Suresh Kumar is Joint Secretary and heading LAC region in the Ministry of Commerce. And besides handling the territories of Latin America region, he is also in charge of capex sale and also pharma matters at Ministry of Commerce. So over to you, Mr. Suresh Kumar.
Thank you, Mr. Gajendra. First of all, let me convey my good morning to all my friends, colleagues who have joined from the Latin American region, and also good evening to all the participants who have joined from India. I am quite delighted to see Indian ambassadors to all these 4 countries, and also the ambassadors to India from all these 4 countries participating in this Namaskar Pacific Alliance program. We all know that this program was originally scheduled to be held last year in the Latin American region. However, due to the COVID pandemic, FICCI had to postpone this event, and now, better late than being never, that FICCI has decided that it is better to have it through an online platform instead of waiting indefinitely for an opportune moment to do it. I take this opportunity to thank and congratulate FICCI for coming out with this very important program, wherein we are connecting the business community and officials from the 4 important countries in the Latin American region with India. Already Mr. Aravind Varshavi has already mentioned about the importance of the Pacific Alliance and how significant it is to India's bilateral relationship. I don't want to repeat those information, but let me add that India enjoys a very strong and deep-rooted relationship with all the 4 countries in this alliance, starting from Chile, with which we had the relationship started from 1949, and subsequently with Mexico, with Colombia, and with Peru, we have very good bilateral trade and people-to-people contact. Despite the distance, India's relationship with the region and the 4 member countries has witnessed marked improvement over the last few decades. India enjoys observer status at the annual summit of Pacific Alliance, and there is of course a proposal for India becoming an associate member of the Pacific Alliance, which is being actively pursued. All the 4 countries have very important relationship with India, and we all know that there are a lot of complementarities which all these 4 countries have with India. Today, the alliance accounts for 40% of its trade with the Latin America and has been growing rapidly. Mexico, Colombia, Peru, and Chile are the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th largest destination of India's exports in the Latin American region after Brazil. India and the Pacific Alliance has the potential to touch $30 billion in trade very soon. We are very closely working with all these countries. We have a PTA with Chile, which is in the final stages of expansion. Similarly, we are having a PTA negotiation with the Peru, which is going on. Though with Colombia and Mexico, as on today, we don't have a PTA negotiation, but we have very active joint trade agreements and bilateral discussions going on. We hope that very soon we can translate this also into trade agreements. There are several Indian companies cutting across different sectors, including information technology, pharmaceuticals, energy, mining, and manufacturing, operating in these countries, and they all express their happiness and the way in which they perceive this region to be very, very important for their overall growth and development as well. During this a virtual event, I am sure that there will be many important issues, many important sectors that will be discussed, and the experts from the relevant field will be sharing their thoughts, sharing their insights, and also working towards expanding our trade relationship. I wish all the best to this event, and I look forward for very meaningful insights which will come out of this meeting. I request Vicky to kindly share those insights with us so that in our future interaction with these countries, that will be of real use to us. Thanking you all once again and wishing all the best to this event. Thank you very much. Namaskar.
Namaskar, Suresh Kumarji, thanks. And I think you have given us a big task of taking this trade relations to 30 billion trade very shortly. So we would work on it. And as in the past, we would be sharing you an outcome report, which we have always done for our major initiatives, and keeping in mind the industry issues from both Indian as well as Pacific Alliance countries. Now we would like to invite Her Excellency Miss Mariana Pacheco, and she has just taken over, and she's Ambassador Designate of Colombia to India. And Miss Mariana Pacheco would be representing the Pacific Alliance bloc, and she has a Master's of International Policy at Johns Hopkins University. And so over to you, ma'am.
Thank you. Good evening. Can you see me? Can you see me and can you hear me?
We can hear you, but we can't see you.
Let me allow me 1 second, and I move to. Can you see me there?
Actually, I think Excellency, I think your signal is somewhat weak. It's showing us an exclamation mark. So, but please continue, and we'll be able to see you soon.
Okay. Okay. Yes, you can say. Sorry about that. Can you hear me there? Yes. Can you hear me?
It's perfect, Excellency.
Perfect. Sorry about that. Well, good evening, good morning to those in the Pacific Alliance countries. His Excellency, Mr. Juan Angulo, Chilean Ambassador to India, His Excellency, Mr. Carlos Rafael Polo Castañeda, Peruvian Ambassador to India, His Excellency, Mr. Federico Salas, Mexican Ambassador to India, His Excellency Mr. Sanjeev Rajan, Indian Ambassador to Colombia, my friend. I'm very honored to be here and greet you. His Excellency Mr. M. Suparajudu, Indian Ambassador to Peru, Mr. Suresh Kumar, Joint Secretary, Latin America and the Caribbean, Ministry of Commerce, Government of India, Mr. Arvind Warsawi, Managing Director of Sri Sri Tattva and Chair of the Fiji Latin American Regional Council, Mr. Manish Singhal, Deputy Secretary General of FICCI, distinguished delegates of FICCI, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, FICCI, for this invitation to Namaskar Pacific Alliance. With gratitude and appreciation for this invitation, allow me to present an affectionate greeting on behalf of the member countries of the Pacific Alliance, Colombia, Chile, Mexico, and Peru, and their diplomatic missions in New Delhi. For us, it's a privilege to be part of this promising event and reaffirm our commitment in promoting a higher economic engagement and synergies in business and trade between India and our four countries. In April 2021, the Pacific Alliance celebrates 10 years of its creation, a decade in which we have consistently worked to increase the competitiveness of our region, promote development, well-being, and expansion of our trade in other regions of the world. Allow me to say that the Pacific Alliance is the eighth economic power and the eighth export force worldwide. Without any doubt, it's a dynamic and vibrant initiative and with significant advantages for international business, especially towards the Indo-Pacific region. In Latin America and the Caribbean region, the Pacific Alliance represents 41% of the gross domestic product, $627 billion exports, which is equivalent to 50% of total regional trade and 45% of the foreign direct investment. The four countries with an average GDP per capita of $19,000 and a population of 230 million people are the most competitive economies in the region, according to the World Bank's Doing Business Index 2020. Distinguished assistants and colleagues, with a strategic vision towards the year 2030, we're working on a more integrated, more global, more connected, and more entrepreneurial Pacific Alliance. Much remains to be done, but we have made progress on many significant issues that go beyond the strict exchange of goods and services and impact directly the well-being of our citizens. It's a proven fact that the current global situation demands from us a more pragmatic and comprehensive approach to face the challenges, not only posed by the COVID-19 pandemic, but also by the international economic environment. Colombia, as the pro tempore president of the Pacific Alliance 2020-2021, has the commitment to continue consolidating these achievements. We are convinced of the importance of strengthening an ecosystem of cooperation among countries with similar priorities and complementarities. It is in the identification of new commercial partners that we want to develop new potentialities, especially in the sectors demanded by today's world as information technology, BPOs, business process outsourcing, legal process outsourcing, LPO, pharmaceuticals, auto and motor parts, agribusiness, oil and gas, mining, agri-tech and food tech, renewable energy, medical supplies, and aerospace among key sectors. In the Pacific Alliance, we recognize the potential and expertise that India has in many areas and the opportunities that offers in terms for business and investment prospects of mutual benefit. India's trade with the Pacific Alliance has been steadily growing, and with no doubt, there is a promising space for a deeper and stronger engagement. As I mentioned before, the Pacific Alliance offers competitive advantages for international business with a clear orientation towards Indo-Pacific region. During the 13th Pacific Alliance Summit held in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico in July 2018, the presidents created the Global Value Chain and Productive Linkages Technical Group, Cadenas Globales de Valor y Encadenamientos Productivos, with the purpose of diversifying the supply chains between the four countries and improving the insertion into the regional and global value chains. Indian businesses have important opportunities to offer to all four countries. We hope of a very successful partnership and future collaboration between the Pacific Alliance countries and India that will allow both regions to strengthen ties of friendship, trade, investment, and mutual understanding. As Mr. Kumar said and Mr. Warsawi said, I think this is the right time to renew and strengthen our ties. Thank you to all.
Thank you, Excellency. Thank you for highlighting the advantages of Pacific Alliance nations, and we hope the businesses from both sides will explore these opportunities and improve business ties between India and the Pacific Alliance bloc in particular. We have with us, actually, we have come out with a knowledge paper on India and Pacific Alliance. So we would be officially launching this India Pacific Alliance knowledge paper, which basically highlights both trade, business, and also investment opportunities in different countries of Pacific Alliance. So we would just like to play a small clip on launching of a report. Thank you, Manisha. So now we also have the privilege of having with us Ambassador Mr. Sanjeev Ranjan. So I would just like to give this opportunity and like to take some intervention from Mr. Sanjeev Ranjan, our Ambassador of India to Colombia.
Thank you very much. Good evening to all the participants in India. Buenas tardes a todos los embajadores de Alianza Pacífica y un saludo cordial a embajadora Mariana Pacheco. It's a great pleasure and thank you very much, Vicky, for organizing this event focused on the Alliance. An excellent initiative to connect businesses in both parts of the world. There is obviously a clear need to work in a focused manner, and I'm very happy to hear that you have just launched the report on this aspect. This will really help businesses to identify and avail the opportunities that are present for both sides, businesses of both sides. I really thank Ambassador Pacheco for her very comprehensive address on the Alliance, as well as the introductory remarks of Dr. Vachwasvi on this issue. I definitely take the challenge which Joint Secretary Suresh Kumar has put to FICCI and to us to reach the target of $30 billion. In view of the pandemic, I'm sure this will be a challenge which will be even greater than in normal times. Let me restrict myself to a few general observations since most of the issues have been covered by previous speakers. What has become clear during the pandemic is that the process of digitization is going to accelerate in a significant manner. Our meeting is a testimony to this very aspect. In an earlier time, as Joint Secretary Suresh Kumar said, we would have a visit of a FICCI delegation to the countries and they would interact with their counterparts. Now, newer technologies and tools are being deployed and that allows for more efficient connections. Now, the process of digitization is going to make significant changes in the way our economies, societies, and businesses would function in the coming years. And I would suggest that this change would vary from products to services, marketplaces, production processes. And it is important for our businesses in both parts of the world to be ready to adapt to the new wave of innovation in the way of doing business. This would have significant advantage for an early adopter. The second point that I would suggest is that it is also incumbent to revisit and examine our established practices, norms, and regulatory procedures which guide the way businesses function. For example, let's say an electronic documentation process for custom clearance, or what are the processes required for setting up a business or paying taxes or banking transaction. Changes in these areas, I believe, will reduce significantly the transaction cost of doing business and provide a boost in our economic and commercial links. The retooling of these procedural and regulatory frameworks is really helpful for companies to have a cost-effective and a transparent process. And this is the need of the hour as we see economic contraction across the globe. The other significant impact that a post-pandemic world will see is likely going to be a focus on internal issues resulting from on the economies and the societies of these countries. Economic contraction could thus result in insularity, and we all need to be conscious of this and try to identify new opportunities the way we are doing just now to minimize the impact of such an insularity. Lastly, I would like to say that the economic and business prospects of the Pacific Alliance are going to become even more apparent as the economic integration and harmonization processes gains greater depth. The integration of the alliance with other regional grouping also offers opportunities. Obviously, the bilateral economic arrangements which the Pacific Alliance countries already have presents opportunities, and as has been said, several Indian companies across sectors work in the alliance countries, is also an aspect which our businesses need to keep in mind while they are deciding upon or taking business decisions. Overall, our sense is that the process of integration is expected to continue, and developing an understanding of these processes would be of interest to businesses on both sides. I wish all the participants as well as the virtual VSM my best wishes and success. Thank you very much.
And Sangev, thanks, Ambassador. Thanks for sharing your insights inside. In fact, this is what we gain from your presence, your experience there in Colombia. Now, we would like to also take the benefit of the presence of Mr. Subbaraidu, Ambassador of India to Peru, to share his thing for his special intervention.
Thank you, distinguished ambassadors, colleagues, participants, greetings from Lima. India has an active and growing partnership with all 4 countries of the Pacific Alliance. that is rooted in shared friendship and understanding, commonality of interests, complementarity of economies, convincing strengths and expected benefits make it highly imperative for India and Pacific Alliance to continue building partnership for prosperity. How to facilitate and accelerate this process of partnership building may merit attention. Besides industry taking note of the potential areas and playing an active role in enhancing trade and business, as mentioned by my colleagues Sanjeev Ranjan, there is a need for creating an enabling environment which encompasses supporting framework, easy access for goods, services, and investments, approval and regulatory systems. Let me share a few thoughts on these elements. Pandemic has highlighted supply chain disruptions, inadequacies, and new challenges. It made countries to diversify and reorient their priorities, and health, technology, particularly digital technology, and economic revival occupied immediate priority. India is well qualified to be a close partner in these areas, as well as in sectors like transport, renewable energy, textiles, chemicals, steel, agricultural products, and food processing, to name a few. Cooperation in renewable energy is an area that deserves more focus. I invite you to go through a report on ease of doing solar 2020, which provides useful inputs for building a robust and enabling solar energy ecosystem. At bilateral level, India and Peru are working on a number of agreements and documents to put the remaining mechanisms that encourage partnerships in place. The negotiations to finalize a trade agreement have made a good progress. Both sides are working on a memorandum of understanding on cooperation on mutual recognition between regulatory agencies, Ayurveda chair, and traditional systems of medicine. The regulatory bodies of agricultural products are also working on completing the requisite formalities to grant access to products. The latest development is a gadget notification by Peru permitting entry of peanuts from India. It would help building partnership between India and Pacific Alliance countries if the regulatory and approval processes of pharmaceuticals and medical devices are made faster and less complicated. Also, according recognition to the Indian pharmacopoeia will facilitate wider supply of affordable medicines for public health needs, thereby reducing the burden on public exchequer. Business partnerships in defense industry, space application sector, civil nuclear energy, infrastructure development could be considered and developed between India and Pacific Alliance. I attended the 14th Summit of Pacific Alliance held in Lima in 2019, and efficiency in the logistic chain, greater connectivity, standardization of procedures and compliances, development of infrastructure, ways to reduce high cost of transportation, bottlenecks at border crossings, support to small and medium enterprises, existing tax system, etc. were highlighted in the summit, and they remain very, very important even today. I feel the harmonization of standards, regulatory procedures, permits, procurement and entry procedures, standardization of custom declarations, logistics, etc., that Pacific Alliance may finalize for intra-trade and business could influence engagement with partners like India. This would have positive impact on expanding our partnership. I'm confident that the outcome of Namaskar Pacific Alliance 2021 with its sector-specific sessions, B2B meetings and exhibition will contribute to greater engagement between India and Pacific Alliance. Let me stop at this point. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Thank you, Vicky.
Thanks, Ambassador Subaraidu. Thanks for highlighting very, very critical issues of connectivity, regulatory, easier access, and logistics in promoting India and Pacific Alliance country trade and business relations. We have with us some industry representatives and a very senior representative from TCIL. So, if I may invite Mr. Sanjeev Kumar, would you want to, maybe you may be little brief, but you can highlight industry related shows with the all key policy makers present.
Morning to my friends in Pacific region and good evening to my friends in India. I thank you, Fiki Jain, for inviting me on this forum. TCL is one of the Government of India owned company, having experience in more than 70 countries across the globe, providing and creating infra in IT, telecom, and civil sectors. In Pacific region, I see great opportunities for improving education and healthcare facilities where IT and telecom technology can be leveraged to extend good quality education and healthcare facilities. Similarly, in renewable energy also, India can play important role there to boost up the non-renewable energy methods to increase the productions there. And definitely in telecom, India is one of the country where the telecom services are cheapest in world. So this country can get benefit from Indian experience in offering affordable telecom services. This was thank you, and I look forward for great cooperation between my company and the prospective partner in this country.
Thanks, Mr. Kumar. And we also look forward to your more active contribution to FICCI LAC Regional Council, because this is where we take up these issues and promote Indian industry's interest as well. So we look forward to your support and cooperation at FICCI LAC Regional Council. May I now invite Rusbe from TCS, who has the TCS has strong presence in all Pacific Alliance countries. So, Rusbe, if you would like to make some brief suggestion or highlight any issue to policymakers present here.
So, thank you, Vicky, for this excellent forum. Your Excellencies, it is always an honor and great privilege to be sharing our humble experiences. TCS is present in all the economies of the Pacific Alliance, and we have over 11,000 employees generating significant impact on the development of the technology industry there. We essentially support business 4.0 journeys, and I think all the previous kind of excellencies have highlighted the importance of digital technologies and such like artificial intelligence, automation, cloud computing, agile methodologies, etc. And we leverage them to drive growth and transformation for our customers across industry verticals like banking, financial services, life sciences, among others. And we have made significant investments within the Pacific Alliance region, including our TCS Customer Experience Center, which allows governments and businesses to experience TCS's research, innovation, and digital prowess all under a single roof and see the solutions come to life. I think apart from that, I think what I'd like to highlight is a very important aspect of Tata Group and TCS is giving back to the community, and we've done significant amount of effort there and across. If you look at the kind of Pacific Alliance region, We have impacted over 100,000 lives through our signature programs like TCS Empowers, TCS Enable, Hour of Code, TCS Code Vita, Go IT, and so on. So significant amount of business opportunities that we've benefited from, we've also given back to the communities. And I think another part which I think Joint Secretary also highlighted is in this kind of pandemic era, how do we leverage the technologies, especially the digital technologies? And one such area was in area of learning or education. And TCS Ion, with our own platform called Digital, it's called a classroom instead of the conventional classroom, takes the entire process of teaching to an online, easy to kind of move for any school, university, etc. And that was offered across the Pacific Alliance universities free of cost during this pandemic year. With that, I think what I would like to highlight is we've had excellent experience in the region, and we've grown there, and we want to continue this growth. So thank you, and we appreciate the support of all the embassies for the four countries. Thank you very much. Thanks, Gopinda.
Yeah, thanks, Rusbe. And I think this is where we feel is the main differentiator between Indian companies and Indian groups and some of the other groups from other, because we believe in giving back to society, and Tata is one of the prime example of this, I think. So I thanks, Rusbe, and thanks for highlighting that part. And I believe that is the main differentiator. So
Thank you.
before we moving on to the virtual tour of exhibition, I would request Mr. Manish Singhal to give the concluding remarks. And Mr. Manish Singhal is Deputy Secretary General of FICCI, and he leads all our international outreach all across and including other multilateral forums as well. And he has over 22 years of experience in most of the major companies, including Tata Motors and Eicher and Mozarbeer and BEML, the public sector undertaking as well. So, Mr. Singhal, over to you.
Thanks. Just a moment. Thanks, Gajendra. Good morning to everyone from the Pacific Alliance countries, and good evening to everyone from India. Welcome you all. Special welcome and, of course, thanks to Mr. Suresh Kumar, our Joint Secretary, LAC, Ministry of Commerce, Her Excellency Mariana Pacheco, Ambassador Designate of Colombia to India, His Excellency Federico Lope, Ambassador of Mexico to India, His Excellency Carlos Polo, Ambassador of Peru to India, His Excellency Juan Angelo, Ambassador of Chile to India, Mr. Sanjeev Ranjan, our Ambassador to Colombia, Mr. Subaraidu, our Ambassador to Peru, Mr. Varchasvi, Chair of FICCI LAC Regional Council and person and Managing Director of Shri Shri Tattva. I think the presence of you deserves more than a thank, because it's a privilege for FICCI to have you all. We have ambassadors from each of the Pacific Alliance countries, which is very motivating for us to continue with the initiative of our Pacific Alliance. A little bit of background as to how we came about with the idea of Namaskar Pacific Alliance is that, FICCI has a brand of shows for about, I think, 12 years now. We call it Namaskar Africa. We used to have this expo rotated all around Africa every year. In fact, we had the inaugural of Namaskar Africa for this year just this morning. So we thought a couple of years back to expand this initiative to other emerging regions of the world where India can see very high growth rate in trade and investment. So we looked at Pacific Alliance countries in particular. There is one we looked at with Eurasian region. So we had the Namaskar Eurasia launched 2 years back, and we had the latest edition last week. Similarly, we also launched this year Namaskar Arabia, which is with the Arab region. So this gives you a little bit of context. Of course, while yes, we could not, launch this initiative last year and got stuck during COVID, but probably this initiative had to be launched under the guidance and aegis of the chair of FICCI LAC Council, Mr. Varchasvi, and the co-chair, Mr. Karan Singh. I think, their launch of this council, FICCI LAC Council, was auspicious for Namaskar Pacific Alliance too. Colombia, as we all know, is rotating pro tempore presidency of Alliance, and that's why we have Colombia, taking the lead this year. And as the presidency rotates, we will keep on rotating the Namaskar Pacific Alliance also. So the next edition of Namaskar Pacific Alliance would be in Mexico, and we hope to do a physical program next time. Coming back to Colombian presidency, we all are aware that Colombia could also be very important, not only from the Pacific Alliance and Indian point of view, but also from the Indo-Pacific construct point of view. You know that recently our foreign minister promoted and has been promoting the idea of an open and inclusive Indo-Pacific. So while the initial definition, informal definition, started from eastern part of Africa till the western coast of North and South America, but I believe we would more than welcome friends like Colombia also into the Indo-Pacific. Likewise, when it comes to Pacific Alliance itself, J.S. Reddy had mentioned that we have the observer status today. And of course, we look forward to moving beyond our proposed PTAs being discussed with Peru and Chile. Once we do that with Mexico and similarly something with Colombia, I think we will move beyond being an observer in Pacific Alliance, and the relationship becomes much stronger. And this comes at the back of the fact that 35% to 40% of the GDP of Latin America comes from these 4 countries, and these 4 countries also happen to be one of the easier countries for doing business when it comes to Latin America and Caribbean. So that's why Pacific Alliance turned out to be a focus area for FICCI when we started looking at the Latin American region a few years back. We've already discussed a lot of potential sectors and areas of cooperation, so I wouldn't want to repeat that. But probably, if we could look at the 30 billion target which was spoken, I mean, we feel we could even go to 50 billion maybe in the next 4 to 5 years. But to do that, there are a few suggestions as FICCI, which we would like to leave for the consideration of August Excellencies present here today. If we were to look at increasing our trade to that level, and even investments, they are just about 5 billion from India and 1.5 to 2 billion from Latin American region. If we have to look at that, probably we will need to progress towards these FTAs or PTAs with all the 4 Pacific Alliance countries to start with. There have been certain issues which Indian and the industry in Latin America have been speaking about. From Indian side, it's like signing of the social security agreement, signing of totalization agreements. There are some visa procedures which back businesses. Similarly, there could be cumbersome procedures and registration of new products, and especially the pharma products. So pharma, as you know, India started calling itself the pharmacy to the world, and the COVID time has more than proved that. But beyond pharma, I think we could look at manufacturing partnerships, even in areas like medical devices, PPEs, electronics, and food processing, etc. Last but not the least, and that's not because our chair is Mr. Arvind Varchasvi, But I think traditional medicine is one big area which is of interest both in Latin America and India. So that could be one area which we could look at going forward. To end, once again, thanks to all excellencies who are present here today. Like I said, your presence is always very motivating and encourages us to do similar initiatives in future. Also, thanks to Mr. Sanjeev Ranjan, Indian Ambassador to Colombia, and Ambassador Subaraidu for being here, though it's very early hours for you in your countries. But like I said, I think this virtual mode of communication is also reimagining distances between Latin America and India. And distance was always one excuse, I would say, one would hear from businesses on both sides that, oh, too far, India is too far, or Colombia is too far. So I think we've bridged that distance thanks to COVID. With these words, a good day to you all, and thank you once again. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thanks, Manishji. Thanks for highlighting Indian industries points and actually clearly highlighting those three major things that we as industry body look forward to promoting business ties between India and Peru, India and Namaskar Pacific Alliance. So now we have, we all know we also have an expo going on, and we have more than 50 exhibitors participating. So I would request my colleague Santosh Nautiyal to take us through a virtual tour of the expo for the benefit of all those present here, as well as those who are watching it on WikiBite.
Thank you, Gajendra.
Yeah.
Good evening to all, and good morning to the dignitaries from Pacific Alliance countries. I'll now share with you we'll start the screen virtual tour. This is the lobby page. Whenever you log into the Namaskar FICCI site, you will see that this is the lobby through which you just enter. You have to go to the exhibitions. These are the links we have given here. Exhibition, auditorium. Auditorium will see the live program of our session, which is going on right away. And then here we have the exhibition. This is the Namaskar Pacific Alliance lobby where we enter. Then we here go on the two halls that we have created here, Hall 1 and Hall 2. When we enter Hall 1, we'll see all the companies here listed. And we can search here with the companies. We search here the name of the company that we are looking in for.
You may take two escorts or
Yeah. Here we see all the companies are actually being displayed. We have escorts. We have different companies: Mahalakshmi, KRBL, Haldi Vita. This is one of the agri-food processing company you can see here. They have the immunity boosters that we actually all need in this COVID time. And then we can go on to our next. We go to hall number 2. Here again, we have some companies listed. I think there is some network problem on the bike platform. I'm sorry for that. Yeah, here we are. We can see the companies here. So any company that you wish to join, you can just click on the link and see their products, the kind of products they have. This is OLM. So this is how you can go. You can go on the networking lounge. We have the categories of kind of sectors we have highlighted here: healthcare, conference sector visitors, textile sector, and then the business visitors. Here you will see the list of all the international participants from various countries who have registered for B2B meetings. We click on the link and then accordingly we start chatting. Suppose we have a commercial Burto Ltda. He's from the automobile, chemical, petrochemical sector from Chile. We click on this and we get the company profile. So this is how the Indian companies are, the Indian exhibitors who are in the exhibition. They search the buyers here as per their sector and they connect with them for the B2B meetings. This is the this is the total virtual tour exhibition you can see here. Over to Gajendra. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Santosh. Thanks for taking us, giving all of us a virtual tour of the exposition. I would just like to add here that any buyer or any company from Pacific Alliance region can not only see the profile of companies and the brochures and the promotional material, but in addition, they would also can set up a B2B meetings at their convenient time, and so that is what it's so and set up B2B meetings as well. So I hope all the companies in Pacific Alliance countries would take this opportunity and seek business opportunities with Indian exhibitors present at the expo. Now I would like to request Mr. Yuan Chances, Director of India and MENA Region Pro Colombia, who would be speaking on behalf of Pacific Alliance, all Pacific Alliance agencies. So over to you, Juan.
Thank you very much, Gajendra. I would like to say especially hello to His Excellencies, Ambassador Mariana Pacheco, Ambassador Juan, Ambassador Federico, and the Ambassador Sanjeev and Subrara Yadu. Also, I would like just to thank Vicky for the organization of this event, but I want just to thank all the Pacific Alliance promotional agencies that are just working on this presentation and on this project from Peru, Pro Chile, and the Mexican Economy Secretary. Also, I would like just to say hello before starting the conversation to the private chambers of commerce that always are supporting the embassy, the trade agencies, and also to FICI in order to promote business between India and the countries of the Pacific Alliance. This presentation would like just to summarize the main aspects of the Pacific Alliance to the Indian business people. But the main message, Gajendra, in this case, is that we are aimed just to promote business opportunities for Indian people or Indian companies in our countries, talking about investing in our countries just in order to take advantage of the nearshoring strategy that we are just reaching right now. And the other thing is that how can we, from our countries, the companies can just export to India. We would like work with FICI and the embassies in the way that we can just promote our products from Peru, from Chile, from Colombia, from Mexico to India. We believe in the bilateral win-to-win situation. So in order just to start the presentation, this is going to be maybe 15 minutes presentation. I would like just to ensure that you are looking at the presentation, Gajendra.
Yeah, it's there.
Absolutely,
Please.
absolutely. So what about the Pacific Alliance? Okay, I would like just to repeat what the speaker just has told before, but the more important thing is that we want just to promote the Pacific Alliance as a real and tangible agreement with really potential results for companies. We believe that this agreement, the Pacific Alliance, can help us in order just to deepen integration between the four countries, in order just to free the movement of goods, services, resources, and people. But the more important thing here is not just talking about the four countries. We have to know that the countries that want just to trade through the Pacific Alliance countries to other regions like North America, like Europe, they are part of this kind of benefit that we can just promote. The other is we want to promote the growth, development, and competitiveness of the economies of the members. And we want to become, sorry, Santosh. But we want to become platform for political articulation, economic.
You are least bothered, but report तो लोगे ना जैसे मैं वो पूछ रही हूँ मिली कि नहीं मिली.
Okay, sorry. Okay, what are the main legal instruments? Okay, the framework of agreement was took force since July 2015. The trade protocols were just taking force on May 2016, and the amending protocols, that is the more practical way in order just to take advantage of the free trade agreement and the agreement, sorry, about the Pacific Alliance was in force in April 2020. It's important to highlight the text that you can see in the presentation that at this very moment, the most advanced instruments, protocols we are just working with are on cosmetics, e-commerce, telecommunication, and some regulatory improvements. What about the trade protocols? The trade protocols aims to extend and take greater advantage of the existing trade benefits among the members. So we are inviting Indian companies as yours in order just to go to Colombia, not to change the place in which you are based. No. We are not trying just to promote that. We are promoting the way that you can just open commercial and productive operation in our countries in order to take origin and then just to export. As I say in some forums, Mr. Gajendra, is that we would like you to import from our country, from the Pacific Alliance, but the more important thing in this moment of recovering, is just to promote the way that you can export from the Pacific Alliance countries. This is really important for us. That is why, for example, the Ambassador Mariana Pacheco was telling us about the importance of the global value chains that the Pacific Alliance can provide to the partners from India. So, really important just to consider that in sense of trade and integration, the Pacific Alliance trade protocols want just to reach about the access to the markets, rules of origin, I was just telling about, sanitary and phytosanitary measures, trade facilitation, and technical barriers. Really important about origin. Because if an Indian company wants just to produce something, in order just to take advantage of the free trade agreement, for example, that a country like Mexico had with the United States, they can produce in Colombia, Peru, Chile, or even in Mexico, and then the Indian company can consider the benefits on taxes that could be provided from Mexico and the Pacific Alliance for a company who wants to produce there in the country. Service and capital, really important. Cross-border trade in services, financial services, telecommunication, e-commerce, that is really important. Now we believe that as well as we are trading between countries, in the future we are being trading between companies and government with companies through the e-commerce platforms. And this is really important, and you Indian people know how to do it. Maritime service and investment. Actually, I would like just to tell you, this is no opportunities for companies who want to export to the Pacific Alliance. Just take into consideration the opportunities that we have for Indian companies who would like to invest through trusts or through special purpose vehicles on the financial terms. We are trying to integrate the exchange trades houses there in Colombia, Peru, Mexico, and Chile. That is called MILA. And in the future, it will become a kind of common trade place for capital and for investment into the four countries. The last one is other disciplines. This is a kind of advanced agreement, the Pacific Alliance. You can consider talking about public procurement, something that we have just to take advantage in the future. Initial provision, general definition, exception, additional protocols, transparency, really important, resolution of differences, and final provisions. Now, just in order just to repeat a little bit about what we were just talking about. First, for an Indian company who wants to invest in the Pacific Alliance countries, just please consider that you can just have a really important first step in a kind of commercial expansion. And then after, just to think on settling a company there in our countries. Why? Because we have a 230 million people population, okay? But consider as well, and this is important for example, for countries like Peru, like Mexico, Chile, and Colombia, we are doing well. The other thing is that we have yearly, and we are talking on 2018 before the COVID pandemic, is we receive 55 million tourists each year. This is important because if you want to invest in our countries in order just to produce hospitality-related products, this is the market, or one of the markets, okay? So considering 230 million people, local people, but also plus 55 million tourists. And believe me, after the COVID, the tourism is going to be one of the sectors that we are going to be improving the more. The other thing is that we have a per capita GDP of around $19,000. This is really important, but also because in the four countries, we are improving the middle class population. Why? This is not talking about, quality of life, of course, yes. But the more important thing is that in our countries, this middle class part of the population has access to financial services. And also they are just having employment. And that means consumption. So saving, consumption, investment. This is the more important. We are talking like an economist. Yeah, absolutely. But we are talking that real opportunities for you Indian companies. Finally, the other thing is that, okay, in this moment, the trade, $627 billion on exportations from the four countries and between the countries as well. So think about it. Why don't you companies like TCS, like Hero, like UPL, like the other companies that are just in the four countries, maybe you can just invite the companies in India that go to the four countries in order just to expand. And maybe you can take a look to the success they are having in this very moment. Work in progress? Absolutely yes. Why? We are just working on regulatory cooperation. For example, on December 2020, and this is important for Indian companies that you are really specialized in agribusinesses, the resolution allowing harmonization in the food supplement sector, and it was signed in that year. That means we need investment in food tech in order just to increase the food security for the four countries. Trade facilitation, yeah, we are working in order just to minimize, the documents and the permissions, but also, and I agree with that, just trying just to reinforce the importance of this in the quality of the products. Phytosanitary certificates have been exchanged since June 2016, and digital certificates of origin since the end of 2019. This is important. Why? Okay, yeah, quality system, yes, but there is a lot of companies from India that can just go to our countries in order just to help us, in order just to increase the efficiency of the digital certifications. About small and medium enterprise and innovation, okay, we are just improving the way that we are reinforcing the network of public agencies for innovation and entrepreneurship. And we are working the 4 countries in just to give a more important role to agencies that are promoting innovation. I know in Colombia, for example, is Impulsa, but also we have partner companies or institutions in the other 3 countries. And if you want just to have some opportunities on venture capital, and you Indian companies know how to do the venture capital, kind of businesses, you can go to our countries in order just to take a look to what are the new startups we have there, we are promoting, and then we are looking for capital, but also we are looking for technological transfers and also the knowledge you have. Acceleration is investor networks, exporta fácil, that is something that if an Indian company wants to establish there in Mexico, Peru, Chile, and Colombia, we have institutions that you can help you just to go to the countries, yeah, for the soft landing. But also, if you establish there the company in Colombia, in the 4 countries, you can just start being promoted and helped by the institution of the government in order just to export to markets like Central America, the Caribbean, North America, and all of it. Now, what about 2013 strategy and vision? As the ambassador said before, more integrated, more global, more connected, more civic, and better managed. I would like just to highlight the more integrated and the more global. For this, we need your experience, for example, in engineers. We need to teach people from our countries how to become really good engineers. And we can do a lot of things in terms of cooperation. Sorry for saying, but for example, we were just hearing from Tata Consulting Services that they are just exchanging scholarships between the countries, even from Mexico, Peru, Chile, and Colombia. So we need more of this. We are trying just to talk with the 4 biggest companies and maybe the people from NASCON and FICI and all of that in order just to teach to our young people how to become really good engineers in order just to adapt to the new generation kind of jobs. Now, joint promotion, absolutely. We are talking that in the next, from 2012 to 2020, sorry, we have developed around 130 promotional activities. And those activities not just for companies from the Pacific Alliance. This is activities for Indian companies as well. We're being just developing 18 promotional activities. We can work a little bit more. We can work FICI delegates and ambassadors in order just to connect more India to the Pacific Alliance. We need to work on, co-share agreements. We need to work on supporting companies like Air India, Vistara, Indigo. All these companies are just to think on having really good routes to the Pacific Alliance countries. Also, we are just focusing on the strategic pillars, as I told before, e-commerce, really important, public procurement, trade and service, the Dubai Expo. We are taking a look to the Indian experience that you will have experience in the Expo 2021. We are going to be there, the 4 countries, and we are going to try to connect the pavilion of India there in order just to join forces in order just to increase the bilateral business environment in between the countries. Investment and business council. Tourism, we are just trying to promote leisure, meeting tourism, promotion in other countries, new third markets, and capacity of building. And we, the 4 countries, are trying to convince companies like ITC, Taj, on all the more important overall, in order just to go to the Pacific Alliance, in order just to increase the participation on the hospitality market worldwide, having places there in the countries. So this is the kind of brief explanation. We don't want just to give a speech of promotion about sectors and products. We want just to open windows for Indian companies in order just to believe that the Pacific Alliance is going to be one of the most important vehicles in order just to have really important development of opportunities in the future. So I would like, again, thanks Vicky, thank you for the ambassadors, thank you to the Chambers of Commerce, and thank you everybody for giving us this opportunity.
Yeah, thanks, Juan. Thanks for not only giving us some good numbers to potential for Indian companies to join Pacific Alliance for a more integrated, more connected, more global market, but also highlighting opportunities in non-traditional sectors, whether it's e-commerce and innovation, small and medium enterprises, and plus also you highlighted very important aspect, which was tourism. And I think you did mention Dubai Expo and Expo 2020. So from India, FICCI is coordinating all activities for India Pavilion at Dubai. So we would Dubai Expo. So we would be more than happy to work with the Pacific Alliance countries and doing something together at Dubai 2020. So look forward to working with you. And I think taking this opportunity, I would also like to acknowledge the support of your other partners, whether it's Pro Chile from Peru, Ministry of Economy, Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Mexico. We also have the presence of ambassador from Chile and ambassador from Colombia. So we would like to acknowledge the presence of everyone. And it was decided that the Colombian ambassador designate would represent, but we are encouraged by the presence of all the ambassadors here from Pacific Alliance countries and also from Indian ambassadors from Colombia and Peru. So with this, I think we come to the close of this session, which has been very, very productive. And we have, I think, come out with some very, very strong suggestions. And we would be sharing with you the report, all of you. I think which will have some Indian industries recommendations or recommendations which if we implement can take the relationship or the trade target of 30 billion, which Joint Secretary has given us, could be achieved earlier than expected. So I think with this, we come to the close of the session, and I would like to thank all ambassadors and dignitaries present here. Thank you very much. Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Thank you.